Samudandam Vande Guru Paramparam. Thank you for joining our yet another international webinar on the educational platform held by Shakti Global to facilitate online sessions for everyone who would like to know more about various spiritual and health-related topics. The session will run for an hour, and we request you to send your questions in the chat box. We would have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our well-respected Puja Swamiji, Swami Aparajitananda. Swami Aparajitananda, in his Purvashramam, was an electronics and communication engineer. After working in Bangalore as a lecturer in engineering college for 5 years, he resigned from the job in order to study the Indian scriptures in depth. After undergoing an intense training in Sandipani Sadhanalaya at Mumbai, for 2 years, Swamiji joined the Chinmaya mission as a full-time Acharya. In the year of 2018, on the Mahashivratri day, Swamiji was given Sannyasa Diksha. A very fluent speaker in English, Swamiji has conducted various discourses that is available on YouTube that you can all listen to in different parts of the country in reputed institutions like IIT Mumbai. The depth of his understanding, along with his clarity in the subject, is clearly visible in all his discourses. He is also a regular contributor for various magazines. Swamiji served in Mangaluru Center for 10 years, and at present, Swamiji is serving in Yamunotri Center in Chicago, USA. To tell you personally, Swamiji has helped me with a lot of my own spiritual questions after being inspired by his various YouTube videos. Thank you, Swamiji. Welcome, and please take over.
I request all of you to switch on your videos.
I guess some are not switching the videos on, Swamiji.
Let them. We'll give them time. Either you switch on the video or indicate that you are not able to switch on the video because of some reason. Maybe you can just show the hand, showing that sorry. Because I cannot speak to a wall. I need to see the expressions. Okay. Driving person need not. Hmm. At least send a message that sorry. Are you all have responded?
Namaste, Swamiji. Namaste.
Namaste, Amma. Amma, all have responded? Asha, Amma?
Yeah, a couple of people are actually listening from their work. They might not be able to have their camera on.
Huh. At least let them say sorry. We will not be able to switch on the camera. I expect at least a message from them.
There's another person who apologized that they won't be able to have a camera on.
Yes, all have responded. Anybody else who is yet to respond?
Most of them have responded.
How many are not responded?
Maybe one or two.
Ushama, please mute yourself. Usha. Yeah. Amma, when all have responded, we will start.
Let's start, Swamiji.
No.
We can call out the name if they haven't responded, so they know they have to respond.
Ranju, if you're there, please put your camera on. And Smriti.
Sorry, I'm driving, Asha, so I'll.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. I'm on.
Hello?
If you can put the camera on, please.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I think everybody else have responded, Swamiji.
Okay, Amma. Now we'll start. Om. 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 Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Humble prostrations to all of you present here. Our topic of discussion today is how to practice spirituality in modern life. Spiritual living is an intelligent living. And what is intelligent living? It is nothing but a living where you keep the mind very peaceful. So in Bhagavad Gita, there is a very famous quote which says, Samatvam yoga uchyate. What is yoga? Samatvam is yoga. Equanimity of mind is yoga. So, the most important question is how peaceful my mind is. Every day we have to deal with various situations in life. Am I handling these situations beautifully well? Or am I messing up with the situations? How do I know? So the answer to this question is just look into your mind. Is the mind peaceful before handling the situation, while handling the situation, and after handling the situation? If the mind is peaceful, if the mind is cheerful, then understand that you are living an intelligent life, you are living a spiritual life. But if the mind is disturbed, there is tension, worry, anxiety, fear, stress, loneliness, boredom. If all these negative emotions you find in your mind, then understand it is an unintelligent living. It is a non-spiritual living. So the whole of spiritual living is this, keeping the mind peaceful. When the mind is at peace, you are at your best. When the mind is disturbed, you are at your worst. So now, this peace of mind is something which has direct relationship with your thoughts. If your thoughts are good and noble, If your thoughts are pure, if your thinking is right, then the mind is peaceful. So there is a relationship, there is a cause effect relationship, a cause effect relationship between the thoughts which I entertain and the state of the mind. They are directly connected. If my thoughts are good, noble, righteous, then the mind is peaceful. If the thoughts are ignoble, if the thoughts are impure, unrighteous, then the mind is disturbed. So, therefore, every time the mind is disturbed, I have, I have to come to this conclusion. Every time the mind is disturbed, I must say, I am wrong. This is spirituality. Generally, what do we say? Every time the mind is disturbed, I say, somebody else is wrong. Because of somebody, I am disturbed. This is what we do generally. We point fingers at others. Spirituality says, if I am disturbed, I am the one who is wrong. I have to make correction. I'm not saying that others are not wrong. No, that's not the point. The point is, if I am disturbed, somewhere my thinking is wrong and therefore I am disturbed. So, therefore, the whole of spiritual living is nothing but a life of self reformation. Every moment I am paying attention to myself. Because blaming others, I am no way going to improve my conditions. So, therefore, in spiritual life, we constantly point our own mistakes, defects, weaknesses. And then what happens? Every time you win over your weaknesses and defects, you keep on evolving. And what is the proof that I am evolving spiritually? The proof is there is more and more of peace in my life. So, therefore, in our spirituality, we say this there is an FIR test. What is this FIR test? Frequency, intensity, and recovery time. How frequently I am disturbed? F. How intensely I am disturbed? I. And how quickly I recover from that disturbance? R. So as we grow in spirituality, this FIR starts reducing. The frequency of disturbance comes down, the intensity of disturbance comes down, and the recovery time also comes down. So, what is the proof that I am progressing spiritually? The proof is more and more I become peaceful, I become cheerful, I become a happy person, a contented person, a fulfilled person. Spirituality has nothing to do with supernatural powers. Spirituality has nothing to do with magical powers. Spirituality has nothing to do with divine visions. They are all secondary, unimportant, insignificant. The one thing which is directly connected to spirituality is peace of mind. Again, peace of mind has nothing to do with how much Sanskrit mantras you can chant by heart. Spirituality has nothing to do with how much rituals you do every day. They're all secondary. The most important thing is how peaceful your mind is with your spiritual practices. If your spiritual practices are making you more and more disturbed, then somewhere you have mistaken what spirituality is. So, therefore, we have to look into ourselves after all the spiritual practices, what kind of person I am turning out to be. Am I a sweet person, a loving person, a peaceful person, free from all confusions, delusions, all kinds of negative emotions? If these things are seen in us, then understand we are progressing spiritually. So, therefore, our thoughts have a direct bearing upon the peace of mind. When the thoughts are righteous, there is peace. When the thoughts are unrighteous, there is disturbance. And this forms a very basis for meditation also. What is the purpose of meditation? The purpose of meditation is this: gaining greater and greater peace, gaining greater and greater mastery upon oneself, especially mastery upon one's own thoughts. Everything in our personality is decided by our thoughts. So that famous saying goes, beware of your thoughts because they become your words. Beware of your words because they become your actions. Beware of your actions because they become your habits. Beware of your habits because they become your character. And beware of your character because they ultimately determine your destiny. So everything starts from thoughts. So therefore, the purpose of meditation is refining our thoughts. So what do we do in meditation? In meditation, we observe our thoughts. So these are the 5-point techniques of meditation: observe, detect, eliminate, substitute, and strengthen. Observe your thoughts, detect the negative thoughts, eliminate those negative thoughts by substituting it with positive thoughts, and then strengthen those positive thoughts so that those positive thoughts become natural to us. And once the positive thoughts becomes natural to us, in every situation we respond positively. And once positive response becomes our nature, peace of mind also becomes our nature. So in any situation, we are able to handle all of these situations very peacefully. So the whole day, the mind is at peace. If this way we live, then that is true spiritual living. Now, the most important question is, we said positive thoughts. What is the most powerful positive thought? The most powerful positive thought is the thought of God. There can be so many positive thoughts, but the most positive is the thought of God alone. Now, in spirituality, there can be various ways in which one can think of God. But in Vedanta, we consider God as a very consciousness in us. So therefore, every time I shift my attention to consciousness, I am shifting my attention to God. In the language of devotion, I am remembering God. There are various ways in which the same thing is presented. In the language of knowledge, it may be said abidance in the self, abidance in the state of being. Sometimes modern terms they use mindfulness. They are all the same thing. They appear to be very different, but they are all the same thing. Shifting our attention to consciousness itself is remembering God, itself is remaining at the feet of God, itself is being in the here and now. They're all different terms, but it's the same thing. Abiding in one's own state of being. And what is the nature of this consciousness? The nature of this consciousness is Sat Chit Anand. Sat means existence, absolute existence, existence which can never become non-existent. Chit means consciousness, awareness. Anand means bliss. So Vedanta says we are not this physical body, we are consciousness witnessing this physical body. So the whole of spirituality is living our life holding on to the essence in us, the spiritual essence in us. And you'll always find that more and more we are nearer to our own true self, the more and more there is peace, because the nature of consciousness is peace. The more and more we forget our own true self, the more and more we are away from ourselves. So being away from ourselves means what? Being away from peace, being away from bliss. Being away from bliss means being sorrowful. Just like being away from light means being away from dark. Being away from light means being more and more in the dark. So therefore, to the extent we go away from ourselves, how do we go away from ourselves? We go away from ourselves by going outward. Because the self or God is the very consciousness in us. It is a very I in us. In order to shift its attention, we have to go inward. But suppose we go outward, what are we doing? When we are going outward, we are going away from God. We are going away from consciousness. And the more and more we go away, more and more we become weak. That is why you'll always find the more we get addicted to all these gadgets like video games and internet, etc., after few hours, we find that we are totally disturbed. We are exhausted. Why is it so? It is so because we have gone away from ourselves. So now, in the beginning, it is very difficult to practice this abidance in consciousness because you need a very subtle mind for it. So therefore, in spirituality, in the beginning, we ask to meditate upon God with form. This is called as Saguna Sakara Upasana. In the beginning, because shifting our attention to consciousness is difficult, because it needs a subtle mind, it needs a pure mind. And when there is no purity, when there is no subtlety, we ask the beginners to meditate upon an outer form, a grosser form, because meditating upon a grosser outer form is much more easier. So which form to meditate? So Hinduism gives lot of varieties. You can meditate on Rama. You can meditate on any god, Rama, Krishna, Ganesha, Hanuman. Any form is fine. But as you start meditating, the mind becomes more and more pure. And then a time comes when we are able to meditate upon God in its true essence, which is the very consciousness in us, which is the very self in us. So now, a common question asked by very many people is how to begin? How to begin spirituality? So we say in Bhagavad Gita, which is considered to be the essence of all the scriptures, the one thing which is again and again mentioned in all chapters is surrender unto me. Surrender unto me, and I will solve all your problems. This is one thing which comes again and again in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo moksheshyami ma shuchah. You surrender unto me, I will free you from all sins. I will free you from all disturbances. I will enable you to overcome all difficulties in life, obstacles in life. Machitta sarvadurgani mat prasadattarishyasi. Keep your mind in me and you shall overcome all obstacles of life. I will empower you. This is the promise of the Lord. So what we have to do in the beginning, be an Artha Bhakta, Artharthi Bhakta. Whenever there is affliction, turn to God. Whenever there is sorrow, turn to God. Whenever there is some problem in life, turn to God and test God. In the beginning, God is a stranger because we are not able to see Him. We are not able to experience Him. So naturally, God is a stranger for us. But the scriptures say that He is there. All the Mahatmas say that He is there. So with a faith, we start moving in the path of spirituality. And how do we begin? Let us take our problems to the Lord and see whether we are getting a proper solution or not. This is called as testing God, and there is nothing wrong in it. In life, we accept or reject things only by testing, isn't it? A television is purchased. You switch on. If the television is not switching on, there is some problem. So then you return it. We test everything in life. Not only everything, we test every being also. Any relationship. How do we develop a relationship? By testing that person. Is that person loyal? Is that person good? Is that person honest? Only by testing a person, we keep the person near. In the same way, in the beginning, let us test God also. He has made all these promises that He is ever with a person who remembers Him. He will protect His devotee. Name bhakta pranashyati. This is a promise given by God. My devotee shall never perish. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate. Tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. Those devotees who remember me single pointedly, it is my responsibility to take care of their welfare and well being. So these are all the promises made by the Lord. So what should we do? We should do our part. Our part is, let us take the problem to the Lord and wait for a what you call a favorable response from Him. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. I am the father and mother of this universe. So whenever a child has a problem, where should the child go? The child should go to the father or mother. In the same way, it is our birthright to go to God who has created us, who has created this creation. Bhagavan says, I am always with you. I am always paying attention to you. It is you who is not paying attention to me. And therefore you are suffering. So therefore, what should we do? We should turn our attention to Him. We should listen to Him, pray to Him, and allow Him to enter into our life. This is what we have to do as a beginner. Then what will happen? Slowly, slowly, we ourselves will experience certain things. Every time I take a problem to God, mysteriously I find solutions to this problem. Please mute yourself. I think there is somebody who has not muted. Amma, can you see? Yes. Right. So, as a devotee, when we take our problems to God, there is one thing which we will see again and again. Mysteriously, our problems are solved. Either the problem disappears or we are empowered to face the problem. Whatever we need, it comes to us. When we need peace, peace comes to us. When we need inspiration, inspiration comes to us. When we need resources, that also comes. When we need people, that comes. When we need strength to face a situation, that also comes. If you need wealth, that also comes. But I have to mention one more thing. It is very important that when we pray to God, our prayer should be heartfelt. Our prayer should be a serious prayer, not a time pass prayer. If the prayer is coming from the depth of our heart, then that prayer is answered. So therefore, there should be some tapas which we must take up in life. Some tapas means what? You must say, oh God, I will chant, say for example, Vishnu Sahasranama every day. There is this problem which is troubling me. I want a solution to this problem. Every day I will do this tapas. Maybe chanting some stotram. Maybe fasting. There are varieties of spiritual practices. In in these spiritual practices, there should be somewhere where you are giving some pain to yourself. You are taking some pain. Maybe it can be fasting, maybe it can be chanting, maybe it can be japa. Somewhere you are expressing that deep desire to overcome the problem by taking up some austerity, some tapas. This is the way you are expressing to God that, yes, I am very serious regarding solving this particular problem. So this, over a period of time, when you do, you start seeing results. Mysteriously, you will find your problems are solved. And when this happens again and again in your life, every time there is a problem, you turn to God and you find that that problem is solved. You find a solution. Every time when you see this, slowly, slowly, what happens is your faith in God starts increasing. Your love for God starts increasing. Your relationship with God starts becoming more and more strong. And slowly a time comes when problem is staring at you, but you are absolutely at peace. Why are you at peace? You are at peace because you know that there is somebody with me who knows how to solve this problem. There is somebody with me who will empower me to overcome all my difficulties. Once that state of mind comes, once that faith becomes strong, then the mind is all the time peaceful. But suppose if we don't take our problems to God, if we try to solve it ourselves, as most of us do, what is the problem with this? When I try to solve my problem myself, what is the problem? The problem is, if I'm able to solve my problem, my ego will become stronger and stronger, bigger and bigger. I was able to handle this problem, so I am really a great man. The- so if you are able to solve the problem, ego becomes bigger. If you are not able to solve the problem, there is only depression, tension, worry, anxiety. So in both ways, it's a problem. If I'm able to solve the problem, ego rises. If not able to solve the problem, there is stress. There is disturbance of the mind. So therefore, we must always take our problems to God and solve it. Again, one more thing I would like to say here. Suppose we don't take our problem. Remember, God will not forcefully enter into our life. If you are not taking our problem to God, that is the policy of God. Unless we invite him into our lives, he will not enter. It is exactly so. The example given in our scripture is like the sunlight. The person is inside the dark room. The doors are closed, the windows are closed, and he is in the dark. Outside, the sun is shining bright. Shall we proceed? Yes. So, the example given in the scripture is the example of sunlight. The sunlight is there, it will wait outside our room. But if the sunlight has to enter into our room, the person who is suffering in the darkness, he will have to decide, isn't it? That person will have to open the windows and doors. Sunlight will not do it. Sunlight cannot do it also. The person who is suffering in darkness has to decide whether the light should enter into our house or not. In the same way, God is ever waiting to help us, to guide us, to empower us. Whatever is needed, he will provide. But we have to allow him into our lives. And that is done by Sharanagati, surrender. Another very common example given is like the fire. So there is this winter season and this person is shivering. But very near there is a fire also, fireplace. So what should this person do? This person should go to the fire. The fire is anyway giving heat. It is giving to everyone. Fire cannot come to us. We will have to go to fire. Another example given is the example of a drowning person. The person is drowning, so what should that person do? That person should stick his hand out. Then somebody can pull that person out. But if that person is not sticking his hand out, then nobody can help him. The same is true with Bhagavan also. Bhagavan says, life is yours. You are the boss. You are the master. You have to decide whether I should come into your life or not. If you allow, I am always willing. But if you say, no, I'll handle my problems by myself, I don't need anyone, fine, then I can only, remain a witness to all what is happening. And that is exactly what happens in Bhagavad Gita also. In Bhagavad Gita, you find the first chapter, it is Arjuna who is teaching Krishna. Arjuna who is blabbering and Bhagavan Krishna is silent. In the first chapter, it is called as Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The chapter begins with the sorrow of Arjuna. And you will find in the first chapter, it is Arjuna who is chatting and Krishna is silent. And a time comes when Arjuna collapses in his own sorrow. He is not even able to hold his Gandiva, the bow. He is totally confused. And then the second chapter begins where Arjuna surrenders unto Bhagavan in the 7th verse. Karpanya doshopahatas svabhavaha prachhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yet shreyasyat nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Bhagavan, I am totally confused. I don't know what is right and what is wrong. I don't have even the strength to stand up. So please guide me. It is from this verse where Arjuna surrenders that the entire teaching of Bhagavad Gita begins. Till then the teaching doesn't begin because Arjuna was not prepared. So the first is total surrender and then Bhagavan enters into our life. And then whatever is needed, it comes automatically. He will provide everything for us. We will never lack anything because he is a treasure house of everything. Bhagavan is omniscient, all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful, omnipresent, all-pervading. Such a Bhagavan, when he is with us, there is nothing which is impossible for us. And this is what we see in Sundarkand. Hanumanji is able to cross the ocean. How is he able to do it? By the power of the Lord. Hanumanji is able to lift the entire mountain. How is he able to do? By the power of the Lord. So everywhere in Sundarkand, if you see, the glory of Hanuman is not glory of Hanuman. It is the glory of the Lord expressed through his devotees. So the entire message of Sundarkand is this. Once you are tuned to God, his strength expresses through you. His knowledge expresses through you. And therefore you will never lack anything in life. This is practicing spiritual life. If you see this, in that modern example, in the modern context, the example is how we connect to the internet. So we have a device, we have this mobile phone. Mobile phone by itself has limitations. It has a limited memory, limited knowledge. But the moment that mobile phone is connected to the internet, infinite knowledge starts flowing into the mobile, isn't it? That connectivity has to be made. That Wi-Fi signal may be there, but unless we are connected, we'll never be able to access the infinite information present in the internet. In the same way, we should learn how to connect to God. And therefore, every day we must spend some time only for this connection. That Lord who has created us, that Lord who is keeping us alive, we are all alive because of him. The heart is functioning because of him. The kidney is functioning because of him. We are able to breathe because of him. What is life? We don't know. How our sense organs are functioning? We don't know. How the eyes are seeing, ears are hearing, how the brain is functioning? We don't know. So there is an infinite presence in us which is keeping us alive. The biggest mistake we do is we completely ignore this infinite power which is always present. And because we ignore, we get totally disturbed also. So in spirituality, it is called as self-ignorance. What is the mistake we are doing? We are ignoring something. We are suffering not because that infinite presence is not there. God is always with us. We are suffering not because there is no God. We are suffering because we are ignoring the presence of already present God. So if ignorance is the problem, what should be the solution? Paying attention is the solution. Just pay attention, and then you will experience the presence of God, which was already there. This paying attention is what we do in spirituality. This paying attention is what we do in meditation. And that itself is spiritual life. Remain ever connected to your infinite nature. Remain ever connected to God, who is ever there, and then live your life in this world. Then our life will be like that mobile phone, which is ever connected to the power supply, and then it is used. You see, when we are using the mobile phone, all the charge starts slowly, it starts getting discharged. 90%, 80%, 10%, 5%. It gets charged, and a time comes when it is no more able to function. But suppose it is connected to the power supply, then it starts getting charged. So intelligent way of living is remain connected to God and then fulfill all your responsibilities and duties. Spirituality is not about running away from life, escaping from life. This is a very big misunderstanding which people have. People think that spirituality is all about running away from life. No. And that is why in Bhagavad Gita you find the knowledge is given by a grihastha, a householder, to a grihastha. Householder gives knowledge to another householder, and where? Not in an ashram setting, not in some caves of the Himalayas. No, the knowledge is given in the battlefield. Each one of us, we have a battle. We are all in a battlefield. There's a battle in the family. There's a battle in professional field. In every field, there is a battle. So in this battlefield, there are Kauravas and Pandavas. What is a battlefield? Our heart is the battlefield. And who are these Kauravas? The negative emotions in us. They are the Kauravas. They are very large in number. And who are the Pandavas? The virtues in us. Pandavas are only 5. Kauravas are 100 in number. So in the same way, in all of us, the negative emotions are much more predominant than the positive virtues. So this battle is going on. And most of the time we are losing the battle also. So what is the one thing which Pandavas have done? They have turned to God. They have turned to Krishna. They have turned surrender unto Bhagavan. And once Bhagavan started guiding Pandavas, Pandavas were able to destroy all the wicked forces and they were able to win the whole war. This is exactly what we also have to do. We have to just turn to God and everything will be perfect with us. Everything will be fine. The mistake we are doing is we have completely ignored Him. And when we ignore Him, we suffer. That's what is happening. This world is a beautiful world, perfectly taken care by God. This world has no existence apart from God. Just like waves have no existence apart from water. Just like the pots and pans made of mud have no existence apart from mud, just like the gold ornaments have no existence apart from gold, in the same way, this creation has no existence apart from God. Because God is Sat Surupa. Sat means existence. Existence is the nature of God. So therefore, in this world, whatever exists, it has only a borrowed existence, borrowed from God. When such is the nature of this world, when such is the nature of this world, what is the nature? The world has no existence apart from God. How can anything wrong happen in this world? How can anything imperfect happen in this world? So whatever is happening in this world is perfect, perfectly under the control of God. Bhayat asyagnis tapati, bhayat tapati suryah, bhayat indrascha vayuscha, mrityur dhavati panchamaha, Upanishad says. Out of his fear, the sun functions, the moon functions, the fire functions, the wind blows. Everything in this cosmos, all the cosmic forces are functioning out of fear of him. Meaning, this world is in safe hands. And in this world, everything that is happening is perfect. If I am seeing imperfection in the world, it is only the imperfection of my vision. That's all I need to. So therefore, turn to God and everything will be fine. So this is the essence of spirituality. And how, what is the proof that we are living a spiritual life? The proof is mind is absolutely at peace. So this is the way we have to analyze ourselves. Is the mind peaceful? Then everything is fine. But if the mind disturbed, let us try to understand how the mind is disturbed, why the mind is disturbed. Remember, every disturbance of the mind is a way in which God is speaking to us. This we must know. Every disturbance is an indication from God that, as though God is speaking to us. My dear child, what you're doing is wrong. What you're thinking is wrong. And remember, whenever we take the wrong path, there is pain. Whether it is at the body level, whether it is at the mind level, it is the same. Pain and wrong living, they are connected. When there is some pain in the body, what does it mean? That particular limb is not healthy, isn't it? A healthy limb, you don't even experience the existence of it. That is a proof that your body is healthy. What is the proof that body is healthy? You don't feel even the presence of that body. What is the proof that some limb is unhealthy? There is pain. When there is pain, you understand that there is some problem also. Pain and problem, they go together. So in the same way, if there is a pain in the heart, if there is a disturbance of the mind, understand there is some problem. Problem with whom? Problem with my own thinking. So every disturbance of the mind is an indication from God. It is a warning from God. It's a loving advice from God to correct ourselves. So this is what we have to do. Every disturbance, pay attention and find out where our thinking is wrong. And you will always find that the moment you replace the wrong thinking with the right thinking, that pain in the heart also goes away. The pain can be due to anger. They are all disturbances. Disturbance due to anger, disturbance due to jealousy, disturbance due to hatred. All these are disturbances. And the moment you replace the wrong thinking with the right thinking, that disturbance also goes away. So constantly paying attention to our thoughts, attention to our mind. Every disturbance, pay attention. Develop the right thinking. And where do we get this right thinking from? Right thinking we get from the study of the scriptures. The scriptures alone can guide us. Our knowledge from our schools and universities will not help us. They are all materialistic knowledge. What we need is a spiritual knowledge. Materialistic knowledge is useful in getting a job, getting some money, breadwinning education, yes, it is needed. It will give you some money. It will help us fulfill the worldly needs, food, shelter, clothing. But as far as the peace of mind is concerned, this cannot be purchased with the outer wealth. It has to be gained with spiritual wealth alone. And that spiritual wealth we gain by the study of scriptures. So we study the scriptures, we learn the right way of thinking, we apply it, we implement in our life, and then when we start seeing that change in ourselves, we come to know, yes, this path is the right path. So, what is the proof that I am progressing spiritually? The peace, the contentment, the fulfillment. The more and more you experience these positive emotions in yourself, the more and more you are inspired to walk the path, the more and more you dedicate more and more time into this path. And because of your more and more dedication, more and more commitment, serious practice, more and more result you see, and that result itself becomes the inspiration to put forth more and more effort. So, therefore, this is the way every spiritual seeker progresses in life. So, whatever we have learned, let us put it into practice. Now, one more thing I would like to say here. If you want to develop a strong relationship with God, you have to live a life pleasing to God. This is very important. We can't live a sensuous, licentious life and expect progress in spirituality. No. If you want to truly progress in spirituality, we have to live a life pleasing to God. And what is that life which is pleasing to God? When we live a righteous life, walking the path of righteousness, giving up the path of unrighteousness, adharma, when we live a righteous life, this is what pleases God, because dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge, Bhagavan says. For establishing dharma, I take birth, I take avatar. So the one thing which Bhagavan loves is righteousness. So if there is something which I know that it is wrong, but I love doing it, then I should not do it. If there is something which I know it is right, but I don't like it, but I must do it. So my life should be based on right and wrong, not based on likes and dislikes. This is very important. And there will be struggle, because many times something is right and I don't like doing it. And something is wrong and I love doing it. That is the time when there is struggle. And this struggle is absolutely essential to purify the mind. And this only in a pure mind we can experience the presence of God. The necessary condition to experience the presence of God is a pure mind. And how to purify the mind? This is the way. What is the way? Whatever you consider right, do it. There will be struggle, doesn't matter, do it. Whatever you consider wrong, don't do it. Now you may say that, no, but there are times when, I really don't know what is right and wrong. Don't worry. Then you pray to God. Bhagwan, please guide me. Please tell me what is right and wrong. In a peaceful mind, after prayer, etc., whenever you have such doubts, ask Bhagwan. Bhagwan, I am confused with respect to this. Should I do this or should I do that? In a very peaceful mind, you will always find that you are in tune with God. That peaceful mind is called a sattvic mind. In a sattvic mind, you are nearer to God. In that sattvic mind, whatever inspiration comes, that is the right way. Never trust a rajasic or a tamasic mind. Rajasic mind means an extroverted, agitated mind. Never trust. It will mislead you. Never trust a dull, lazy, sleepy mind. That is called as tamasic mind. So if the mind is tamasic or rajasic, never take any decision, because later on you will regret. Only take decision when the mind is peaceful, when the mind is sattvic, when the mind is quiet. Because that is the time when the light of God enters into you. So in those rare moments when you are in tune with your Creator, whatever inspiration comes, just stick to it. Live it. As much as possible, try to live it. In that process, there will be struggle, no doubt. There's a struggle to do what I love doing versus what is right to do. There's a struggle. But in that struggle, you become stronger and stronger. If you don't yield to temptation, if you don't compromise with the higher values of life, if you go on taking this path of righteousness, in spite of all difficulties, in spite of all struggles, slowly, slowly your spiritual muscles start growing. There is something called spiritual muscle. Just like there is something called physical muscle. The muscle grows when we go to gym and struggle. What is the struggle in gym? You are struggling against the force of gravity. The heavy things, they always tend to pull you down, but you pull it up. There's a struggle. And in the struggle, what happens? Your muscles become strong. The physical muscles become strong. In the same way, the spiritual muscles become strong when you fight against your vasanas, your lower tendencies, the ignoble vices, the negative traits. When you struggle against it, your spiritual muscles grow strong. And over a period of time, a time comes when what is right, you just love doing it. And what is wrong, you just hate doing it. Then in such a person, there is absolutely no problem. Such a personality is what we call as integrated personality. There is an integration. What is integration? The lower in me readily comes under the control of the higher. This is called as integration. Wherever this is there won't be any problem. The lower must readily come under the discipline of the higher. So what are the lower in us and what are the higher in us? So Bhagavad Gita says, Indriyani paranyahuhu indriyebhyah param manah manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhe paratastu saha. Compared to the sense objects, sense organs are higher. Compared to the sense organs, mind is higher. Compared to the mind, intellect is higher. And compared to intellect, that supreme self, that God is the higher. And God is the highest. So this is the gradation. So the lower must readily come under the control of the higher. So the sense organs must come under the control of the mind. The mind, which is the seat of likes and dislikes, must come under the control of intellect, because intellect is the seat of right and wrong. The intellect must ever be in tune with the law, the supreme self. If this is there, such a personality is called integrated personality. And wherever there is integration, there is peace, there is harmony, there is joy, contentment, fulfillment, everything. This is actually true spiritual life. So with this, my time is also up. I see a lot of questions coming. So you have whatever questions you have, you are most welcome to ask. Yes.
So, Swamiji, thank you so much for that enlightening session. I will just go through some of the questions. Shivani has asked, how would you describe Rama, Krishna, or any other divine beings like Shiva or Ganesha? In mythological narratives and Puranas, they are depicted to be praying to a higher source, the truth or light. Humbled and grateful for the opportunity.
Is the person there? Amma, please ask. What is the question? Once again, you can unmute yourself.
Pranamji. I wanted to, so in the Puranas and Mahabharata and all the stories that Ramayana and things like that, so we know that Rama and Krishna, like, they have these divinity in them. We worship them as gods. But for example, like, Rama, we see Rama praying to someone or something, a consciousness, right? Even Shiva is constantly in meditating mode. He's connecting his consciousness to some other higher source. So how do we, because when we meditate, you said that, in Vedanta, they say now for the beginners, they meditate imagining a form or a god that they're familiar with. They chant mantras and all that. But as somebody moves on to the spiritual path a bit level higher, they realize that the God is within themselves and they connect to the consciousness. So with that context, it sometimes I find it hard to understand where these divine beings sit and where that higher source or light sits. So is there something above all of them? If that is the case, who are these people or who are these divine beings?
See, in our scriptures, it is said, Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of God becomes God. So therefore, from the highest standpoint, even to say that God is within me is wrong. The truth is, I am God. This is the truth. Aham Brahma Asmi. This is the essence of all the Vedas and the Upanishads. The teacher says, Tat Tvamasi, that you are. The teacher tells the student. But that is the highest truth. So in the beginning, we cannot reach the highest. So what is the condition to experience this highest truth? The only condition, the only qualification is ego should become zero. So the whole of spiritual practice is ego effacement. So there is a famous statement by Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda. He says, as the ego enters, Lord vanishes. As the ego vanishes, Lord enters. This is the truth. So to the extent we can just efface our ego, become a nobody, to that extent God starts entering into us. And finally, when the ego is completely effaced, what remains is God alone. This is true not only with Shiva and Rama, this is true with us also. When the mind has become totally silent, because the ego has become silent, ego has been totally effaced, then what remains is God alone. So to indicate this, you will find that Rama is meditating, Shiva is meditating, etc. They are going towards their own self. And once you merge with the self, what remains is God alone. You don't remain. What remains is God alone. Did I answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Janani, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Swamiji, for the nice presentation. Swamiji, will this understanding put me or my loved ones at risk of not getting any health advice on time? Will this affect my empathic response to the innocent victims of war and crime?
What is that question, Ma? I need to understand the
So
question. What is it?
I'm a bit concerned that by understanding this reality, so like the concept of everything happens because of a supernatural God, and so this understanding, will this put me or my loved ones, my family, at risk of not getting any health advice on time, or will this affect my empathic response to the innocent victims of war and crime?
Amma, in world, there are only two situations. One is a choiceful situation, another is choiceless situation. In choiceless situation, you cannot do anything. You have to just accept it. In choiceful situation, you can do something. So every situation you have to war. Now some war is happening somewhere. How much choice do you have to put an end to that war? Generally, that choice is we are face to face with a choiceless situation, isn't it? So in choiceless situation, let us cheerfully accept the reality. But as far as a choiceful situation is concerned, where I can do something, then you are an instrument in the hand of the Lord to do something. But suppose if you don't do anything, then there will be guilt. I could have done it, but I did not do it. Let there be no guilt at all. So listen to that voice of God, voice of conscience, and act accordingly. If you have to enter into a situation, enter. But if it's a choiceless situation, then cheerfully accept the choiceless situation. That we must learn. Cheerful acceptance of choiceless situation we must learn. Did I answer your question, Amma?
Yes, Swamiji, thank you. But I just wondering whether how to mark the barrier, so the limit, whether I would be considered myself as a selfish person.
For that, in the prayerful mood, ask God. That voice from within will guide you, whether you should involve in that issue or not. If you are in a position to help others, if you are in a position to wipe the tears of others, if you can be of some help to somebody, if you are in a position, then you will always find that you just cannot keep quiet. God from within will force you to enter into the field and serve the needy.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Swamiji, thank you so much. My question was, how do we improve forbearance? When you read the scriptures, titiksha, the forbearance is a very important quality. But how do we improve it when, even though we know knowledge-wise, we understand certain things, we still find that we are suffering and we are not able to tolerate? How do we improve our skills to do that?
Every time you are connected to God, your skill starts improving. Ability to bear pain is also an ability. You will always find this. The more and more you are tuned to God, whatever you need starts coming to you. Just imagine Jesus Christ on the cross. What a pain he must have undergone. You are nailed alive on the cross. But at that time, what are the words which came from Jesus? Oh Lord, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing. What does it mean? It means that his mind was absolutely at peace. And where did this peace come from? This peace came because his mind was in tune with God. This is what happens. The more and more peaceful you are, the more and more you have the strength to go through suffering. The more and more agitated the mind is, the more and more that mind is weak. A weak mind cannot go through the suffering. It only complains and grumbles. So solution to all problems in life is turn to God. And whatever that ability is needed, titiksha, that ability to endure, that power is needed, it will come. Our job is only to turn to Him.
You mentioned earlier that the first type of bhakta is the artharthi bhakta. What are the other types of bhaktas? Are there other types? What are they?
Yes. So in Bhagavad Gita, they say first is Artha Bhakta, second is Artharthi Bhakta, third is Jitnyasu Bhakta, and the fourth is Jnani Bhakta. 4 types are mentioned there. So the first one, majority of us, we fall in that category. Artha Bhakta, he has some problem, therefore he is going to God. He doesn't want God, he wants something from God. Oh God, I am suffering, please put an end to my suffering. So such devotees are called Artha Bhakta. Artha means affliction, sufferings, sorrows. Artha Bhakta. Second one is Artharthi Bhakta. He wants some artham, material benefit, some promotion, some what you call job, money. So this is called as artham, name, fame. So again he goes to God for what? Not for God. He wants something from God. Oh God, give me this promotion, then I will give you something. I will put this much of money in the hundi, that donation box. This is called as Artharthi Bhakta. That also Bhagavan listens. You go to God with any desire, He will fulfill it. Then the third one is called Jitnyasu Bhakta. Now this devotee is a Jitnyasu. Jitnyasu means he has a desire to know who is this God, where is this God. So they are the people who generally come to the spiritual path and learn all the scriptures, etc. Because they have more and more desire to know who this God is. In fact, the purer the mind, greater will there be a desire to know more and more about God, about world, etc. It is a sign of a pure mind that it starts thinking of higher and higher things. The grosser impure mind thinks only the lower things of world. The purer mind thinks of higher things of world. Their thinking is at a very high level. So they are called as jitnyasu bhaktas. They are more trying to find out the nature of God, the nature of the world. Why am I born? Where will I go after death? What is the purpose of life? All these questions starts bothering them. So because they have a lot of questions, they need answers. And they are searching for these answers. Such devotees are called jitnyasu bhakta. And the final one is called jnani bhakta. Jnani bhakta means a devotee who has attained that knowledge. Once upon a time, he was a jitnyasu. And now he has gained that knowledge. Such a person is an enlightened master. And Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita says there is no difference between a jnani bhakta and myself. We are one and the same. So these are the 4 categories and the 4 levels of evolution also in spirituality.
Thank you, Swamiji. Deepa, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. You had mentioned that when we can, we help in the bestest possible way. But is feeling helpless also a form of ego? Like when you're seeing a loved one or anyone suffer and you feel helpless and you can't do much, is that also ego? Is that not enough surrender to God?
Is that helplessness a disturbance?
Yes.
So definitely the ego is involved.
Okay.
Because somewhere you think that God is useless and I alone have to do everything and I am helpless, therefore you are miserable. You see?
Okay.
Because you have ignored God, therefore that disturbance comes. Because you think that somewhere God is wrong. You see? This, my beloved, is suffering. He shouldn't have suffered. God has made a mistake by giving him suffering. This shouldn't have happened. I think God made a mistake. My thinking is right that this person shouldn't have suffered. Now, all these are wrong notions. And as a result of this wrong notion, that person is suffering.
So what should we do then, Swamiji?
When that person is suffering, you do whatever you can. Give them medical help, physical help, everything you do. But at the same time, at the back of the mind, it should be very clear that if Bhagavan is making a person suffer, that is good for that person. Because suffering has a great blessing. When a person suffers, that person becomes pure at heart. Suffering purifies the mind. A suffering makes a person humble. Suffering makes a person grateful. Suffering makes a person introspective. Suffering makes a person turn to God. Suffering effaces the ego. Lot of benefits are there for suffering. So therefore, Bhagavan gives measured doses of suffering to each and every one of us because it is necessary. Just like to know the value of food, hunger is necessary. To know the value of peace, war is necessary. To know the value of health, disease is necessary. You see, the opposite is necessary to understand the other extreme. So to make us value something, God takes us to the other extreme. So therefore, this is absolutely essential. So in his infinite wisdom, God is giving this suffering. So therefore, with this understanding, when I deal with this, the mind will be always at peace.
Okay, Swamiji. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
If there are no other questions, then we might conclude here. We from Shakti Global, Swamiji, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for sharing your knowledge and enriching our lives with your wisdom. Thank you all for your...
Asha,
sorry.
there's a question.
There is one more question, Smita.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I have one last question,
please.
Swamiji.
Yeah.
Thank you. You thought about gunas, 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, right? And also you said we should not take any decision when we are in either tamas or rajasic. So I have 2 questions with that. How do we know we are in which guna? And then also, does food food intake impact any of this guna state?
See, how do we know we are in which guna we are? See, unless you pay attention to your mind, you will never know. As long as our attention is outside, we will never know what is happening in the mind, because mind is nothing but thoughts and it is inside. It is something happening inside. If your attention is outside, you will never know what is happening inside. So therefore, first of all, let us train to look within and observe the different states of mind. So over a period of time, when you make this a practice of looking within, slowly you will come to know these three different climates of the mind, three different moods of the mind. A mood where you're totally dull, you have no interest in doing anything. That is called as tamasic mind. A mood where you are extremely rajasic, extroverted, passionate, agitated, disturbed. And a mood where you are peaceful. So once you have gone through all these stages, in fact, we go through all these stages, we don't pay attention. Therefore, we are not aware of it. So generally, you will find early morning, after a bath, when you sit for prayer, etc., generally the mind is sattvic. You know it. You know that you are at your best. You know that the mind is comparatively peaceful. You know that you are not feeling sleepy. You are alert, you are vigilant, you are fresh. And you are able to think deep into any subject. You are able to analyze different, and great, wonderful ideas come from the mind. You are very creative in those moments. So then understand the mind is sattvic. And the second question is food. Yes, food has something to do with the mind. So in Bhagavad Gita, the description is given there. Sattvic food will help the mind go into sattvic state. Tamasic food will make the mind tamasic. For example, all these drinks and drugs. You can very clearly see something you have eaten, something you have drunk, and then suddenly the mind enters into a different mode. Especially this alcohol, etc. When we take, what happens to the mind? The mind becomes silent. It is a dull silence. The agitations of the mind stop. It's a forceful silence, forced because of the influence of that drinks. And that is why people get addicted to it. But remember, sattvic people will never get addicted to this tamasic drinks, because sattvic joy is a much higher joy. Sattvic mind is a cheerful silence, whereas the silence which you get through alcohol, etc., is a dull silence. There is a difference in silence also, the quality of silence. The silence in sleep is a dull silence. There is no alertness and vigilance there. It's a dull silence. Whereas the silence of meditation is a cheerful silence. There is silence, at the same time you are aware, you are awake. There is intense freshness, deep joy, contentment. So the food has its effects. And you will always find that when you are in a particular mood, you are attracted towards a particular food. Your mind is extremely rajasic. You will find that you will be attracted to all these fried items, masala items, junk food. Have you observed? Especially in the evenings, some fried item, when that smell comes, you feel like you going and eating it. Understand? Rajasic mind will be attracted towards rajasic food. And at the same time, when you are in a early morning meditation, you don't feel like eating some pakoras, etc. fried item. You feel like eating some fruits or something. You see, they are very sattvic. When the mind is sattvic, you feel like eating sattvic food. When the mind is rajasic, you feel like eating rajasic food. So they are deeply interconnected.
Thank you.
Thank you all for such an active participation today. And success of these sessions are really in your eagerness and enthusiasm to learn. We welcome your interest and expression of interest for any of the sessions that you're interested in. And Swamiji, we might actually request you again for another session with yet another important topic. And thank you once again, Swamiji,
Yes,
and to your wonderful audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Hari Om, Hari Om. We'll
Hari
end up
Om.
with a prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Swamiji.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.